And let's see. I'm back. I have the most amazing guest, of course, but I want to know we were having some issues. I'm in Georgia, and my guest is in London, and nevertheless, we're going to try this again to join. I'm going to invite. As I was saying in the other live, we all have the gift. And so tapping in and being able to understand that we have a God given gift, and to be able to tap into that is something amazing. And there's times where you're going to feel like, oh, man, am I suited for this? Am I made for this? And a lot of times we are. We're already made for it. We go through testing, some trials, some fumbles. We start businesses, then we have to close them out. Done that. There are all different things that we've taken into place. But one thing is for certain, and oh, okay, so let's see. You're back in. I accepted you. So let's hit the live button again. So hello, everyone that's joining in. I want to thank my best friend, my brother, Ahmad. Thank you for joining. Hello, Empress. Thank you for coming in as well. I want to thank those who tuned in earlier. I appreciate you, your hearts and your desires to go in. We don't know what's going on with the technical difficulties, but nevertheless, we still press forward. And in that, I'm accepting it. Hi, little mama. Thank you for joining. So we're talking about feminine energy. We're talking about how we already have that thing. It is definitely weird, Empress, that she's not able to join. I don't know why that is, but you know what? I'm accepted again. Um, and I don't know. I'm not a specialist.
Here it is. Finally.
Okay, finally, I got my girl in here. How are you doing this day?
I am very well. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for your patience for trying again and again.
I will not listen. I was casting out all the things that were beneath us, honey, beneath our feet. I was casting it out because there's a message to
Absolutely.
be sent, and so I don't want. I am respectful of your time, but I'm very intentional about the energy. And so for those who are new to you or new, because I know you're all over the world, you're in London. But would you go ahead and share a little bit about who you are and how you serve?
Yes. So my name is Jonita D'Souza, and I am a somatic feminine arts mentor for women. My work is pretty much the bridge between bringing ancient teachings of classical tantra and feminine energy to the modern lives of busy women in our Western culture. I see myself as the bridge between the Eastern philosophy and the Western lifestyle. Having born in India and spent my adulthood in England, I feel that this is the perfect blend of two worlds that I get to experience.
It is amazing that you are able, at what point, because this is something that you said, blending the cultures, because people feel like their way is the only way. And so I am such of the belief that the creator, he created things differently and people differently. Even animals in different areas. There's some animals that are in certain areas that I don't see here in Georgia, like that dirt red clay. There's certain things that we don't. At what point did you notice the change? What was it for you to say, what was that for you?
Um, you know, I grew up in India. I spent my entire childhood and teenage years in India. And at the time, I'm talking about the 80s and 90s, it was pretty much a patriarchal society, male dominated society. And I was very privileged to be born in a family of highly educated people, doctors and teachers and engineers. And so they somehow instilled the belief in this little girl at that time, me, that in order for me to be an independent woman, I should be financially secure. And that's how somehow that's what got into me as a 10-year-old, 12-year-old. So naturally, my brain thought the only way I can make money is by studying hard, getting a good job, and, you know, yeah, studying hard. So I did that. I did that. And to be really honest, like most of
Let's
the
see.
Indians, I became an IT engineer.
Wow. I would've Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Very cliche, right? Very cliche.
Or doctor. Yes, I got you.
Yeah, yeah. My father was a doctor, so I was not interested in that. So I decided to become an IT engineer. So at the age of 21, I was appointed in an IT company. I started working there, and I started earning good salary for my age, this young girl. And I felt like, wow, this is what I studied so hard for. So I should feel independent now.
Mm,
And I didn't.
mm. No.
And I realized at that time it was a kind of disappointment that I worked so hard in my teenage years, studied so hard. I didn't spend any time in any extracurricular activities,
Mm.
no singing, dancing, playing. I was a nerd. I would study, wake up at 4 a.m. every day, you know, and this was the result. This is how my life is going to look like. And so I didn't feel independent, and to be honest, I did not feel accepted in the board meetings filled with men. They didn't take me seriously, and
Wow.
it was kind of mismatch. But on the other hand, there was also this teenager
You
girl
went
inside of me
through.
who somehow was fantasizing about life in the West. Women in the Western world are free. They can express themselves well. They can wear whatever they want to wear and walk freely in the streets and feel safe and fulfilled. So I didn't feel all of that walking like that in India. It wasn't safe. I didn't feel safe.
Right.
I had to have a guard, my mask on and my guard on. So I somehow fantasized being in the West. And
Really?
to be really
Come
honest,
on.
my only influence was MTV at that time.
Hey, hey. That's
No,
and
yeah.
just a sidebar, what was your favorite artist during that time? Who were you musically inclined to?
Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, genie in a bottle, right?
Genie in
So,
a bottle. Oh
right.
wow.
So so I realized like, oh no, this is how my life is going to look like now that I have a job, and this is what it's going to be for me. And I got an opportunity to move to London. And that moment I felt like, wow, I think dreams are coming true. I'm going to the West. I'm going to be finally independent and free and expressed and all of that. So I got to London and I was really happy, and it felt like dream come true for an
Did
Indian
it?
girl from a small town.
What were some of the differences that you noticed just being in the Western
Mm.
atmosphere? What was that?
Yeah, so interestingly, so I had my new sets of girlfriends there, and after an entire week of work, when we started going out, on Friday evenings for the weekend drinks after the heavy lifted work, um, women began to share with me that how they were tired of doing the sexy, looking beautiful, and everything on the outer to be accepted, to be heard, to be seen at work in social circumstances, and they were just so tired of it, and all they wanted was to be just be in their messiness and not
Speed.
be judged.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah, and that hit me really hard because I then realized that, wow, we all share very similar fears and insecurities and desires. And it isn't about the East or the
Come
West. It's just
on.
what it is. It's a confused state of mind and being for women of this century. Like, what is womanhood, right? Like, how do we be and feel good and all of that. So that was the very moment, and I was 23 at the time, and
Wow.
in a confused state. And that was the time also that I would say God hit me with a very tough challenge in my life. My father passed away in India, and I had to deal with the grief of overcoming his loss in my life because he was my biggest cheerleader.
Yes.
And I developed severe case of psoriasis in my body, and I was really upset with God because I was a good girl, right? I did all the
Yes.
right things,
Right.
and why is this happening to me? My body was giving up, my mind was confused, I had no hope, I was crying, and I was having all these angry conversations with God that why me? Why is this happening to me? And that was the beginning of my inquiry to I need to know what am I supposed to do because I don't want to be in the West. I don't want to be in the
I
East. I
don't
just
want to
want
be
to be
I don't want to
myself.
be in this body feeling this way. And I think that many people who are watching or who will watch this will understand, and that's relatable. And that's not a culture thing, that's a human thing. I
Hmm.
don't want to, and I can empathize because I was in that state as well after the diagnosis because I don't own it. It's not mine to have. I ain't owning it. But the diagnosis, I was happy to know what it was, and then I could fight it. But then you're right. There's moments, probably about an hour and a half ago, I had a moment. Who do you think you are? What do you think you're going to do with this, girl? You're using your phone. You're in the corner of your bedroom. How are you going to do this? And then it's like, I had a friend that says, girl, you got this. How do you, how did you just at that moment say, was that a process to where you are now?
Yes, it was an intense process because I was really giving up on life every day, waking up in pain. My body was swollen with psoriasis, it was itchy, and all my mind could think was that I want my father back. I want someone to say consoling words to me, and I didn't feel like listening or praying to God because I was angry. And my
Amen.
boyfriend at that Yeah, and I remember my boyfriend at that time, he presented me a book called The Art of Happiness by Dalai Lama. And in that book, Dalai Lama made a statement, something like, um, the loss of your loved one can be one of your greatest gifts.
Hey,
And that made me so angry, to be honest, because I didn't want the gift. I wanted my loved one back. So I'm getting emotional looking at you. Oh. So that was really hard because I really didn't want the gift. Like, what am I supposed to do with the gift? Why should I have the gift? I want my dad back, right? And so I was really upset with him
yeah.
that what rubbish book, what a rubbish book, and I don't like all of this. And but
It
when
felt
he
like
said,
rubbish. That's how it was with my grandmother. She was, she is. I don't want to say was because I always, I couldn't convert into Western ideas. Was no, she is. She is the light. And when I asked her to hold on, it was very selfish of me. And so
yes,
it was
right, because
very,
the
very
yeah.
selfish of me.
Mhm.
Because she had done her work here and it was time for her transition. And in that
Exactly.
transition, I realized that God, if you put me here and you put her here for a reason, I still can be connected. I'm still connected to her. And if it's the birds, God, let the birds come and let them chirp, rain, sleet, or snow. And I
Mm.
promise you, I was having a moment, probably about an hour and a half before this, and there was a bird that was chirping out my window. And it was just a certainty to remind me
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
there's nothing witchcrafty about this. There's nothing weird about it. It's the
No.
energy.
Yes, exactly. And honoring someone's journey. I did not understand that at that time because I was being really selfish, as you said, that I wanted my father back, and I wanted, and I thought in doing so, everything else will be fixed in my life. And so I was really upset with my boyfriend for giving me that rubbish book. I didn't want to read that again anymore. But somehow one day when I was scrolling on Facebook, I came across a Facebook ad called Essence Workshop.
Okay.
And it was a 2 hours workshop for £10, and it spoke to me. So I felt like, okay, it is £10 only. It's for 2 hours. I'm gonna just go and see what they are talking about. I'm gonna sit by the door. So if it is too woo woo, I'm gonna just leave.
Or we call
So, right?
the church tiptoe. Like, excuse me, Western. Excuse me. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and even though I grew up in India in the goddess culture, Hinduism is the predominant religion. But I grew up in a Christian family, so my family is Christian, and so I was, this girl reading Bible and all of that. So I was thinking like, oh, okay, this woo-woo thing is not for me, but I'm gonna go and see what's going on here. Um, and I went and I sat by the door as I was planning, and the lady there, the lady there, she said something really profound, and she said something like, the biggest gift you can give to another person is to remind them of their essence. And when she said that, I started to cry like crazy, because in that moment it hit me like, essence? What is my essence? Like, what is that? And I don't even know. And something hit me, and I started to cry, and I started to sob. I couldn't control it. And
Sure.
I had women sitting next to me, and there were two women sitting next to me. They held my hands. And for the very first time in my life, someone said to me, "It's okay. We get you. It's okay to cry." Instead of saying, "Don't cry, we got you," or "It's going to be okay." But they told me, "It's okay to cry. We got you." And I have never felt that sisterhood connection before. And for me, that was precious. And I melted in their hands. I just cried for the entire 2 hours. I didn't want to leave. I sat there and I felt like, oh my God, I need this connection. I need to understand what this essence is. And so I spoke to the teacher after the workshop. In fact, she came to me to check if I was okay. And so that's when she started explaining me about feminine energy, feminine essence, connection, and importance of women to connect with this energy that is inside of them for their own well-being and vitality. So all of that felt really like known to me. I never knew it, but it just felt like a remembrance to me. And I decided to then mentor with her. And in doing so, I started to unravel all those aspects of my womanhood. The questions I was asking slowly began to, make sense to me. And also, I learned how to then process my grief, my sadness into
Yeah,
something useful, like how. And that's when I realized, like, wow, this is the
it
gift.
is.
Really, now I see.
It is. I think that that's so essential, that so amazing that you're able to point back to that, because as I said, I think a lot of times as women, I'm just going to speak from my perspective. I think that a lot of times we put on this armor that we can
Yes.
do it all. I
Hmm.
can have the house, I can have the job, I can have the career, I can have the man or the woman if that's what it is. And we have to put on this armor of strong. I'm a strong ex-woman, whichever your nationality. And I
Yeah.
personally don't allow, and I don't align with being strong. I align with being able to go with the flow, because that's the ease of it. This I gotta get it, and I'm gonna do it. It's my way or the highway, and da da da. That energy is doesn't do well for my spirit, i.e.,
Exactly.
the diagnosis of MS.
when I was painfully, hurtfully hurt and, molested when I was a young child. I held that in for so long. What is something that you hold in? What does it eventually do in the body? It causes other things to go awry.
Mm-hmm.
And mine
Mm-hmm.
monopolized into a diagnosis of MS, 18 years of diagnosis. And I'm so glad that God has given me that position, because when I took this shield and said, listen, I'm not taking that anymore. Yes, I love my husband. We've been married this year 24 years. Yes, I love my
Woo!
children. Yes, girl. Yes, I love my children, and they gonna give me all those things. But ultimately, what I'm reminded is that God is, and He positioned me for a reason. And I'm so blessed to have a mother like the one I have, who called me right before this and just
Mm.
reminded me of how, whatever situation, you don't have to put up the armor. You just go.
No, exactly. And this is something that I see a lot around, especially on social media, like, boss babe, and, let's go headstrong, and like, yeah, women lifting each other. And yes, but I feel that what is required for us women to really reconnect with ourselves is not to be stronger, but to be resilient. Not to be like, because we considered feminine as weak. We
No.
consider feminine as soft and vulnerable and weak and submissive.
Mm-mm.
However, when we look into principles, feminine is complementary energy to masculine, not the opposite energy to the masculine
Say it
energy.
again. I'm
And
sorry. Say it again. Repeat that. Rewind that for those people in the back who may not heard you.
exactly, so feminine energy is not the opposite of masculine energy. In fact, it is the complementary energy to the masculine energy, and we need both. And so just trying to be a strong woman just means that you are heading with your masculine energy only. And there is this innate pool of feminine wisdom when you're not utilizing,
Right,
you suffer. We know that.
right,
We don't
right,
feel fulfilled.
right. So, what were some of the points that when you initially said, "Hey, I identified. I don't want to. I'm not taking this energy. That what worked for me before is not working in my now, in my present." And what were some of the steps that you started? What advice would you give?
Yeah. Yeah, so many. And some of the simple ones is like, I was very controlling,
Ah,
and blame it to my IT engineer mentality, because I had to have logic behind things. I had to have A or B as a plan. I have to be organized and control and have control over situations, right? So that I feel safe.
wow.
And yeah, and this was one of the first steps into stepping into feminine energy, is like, how can I let go of that control and still continue to feel safe? Wow, that was scary to let that guard off. However, it required a lot of practice. It required like biting tongue and taking a seat back from control. But also, I realized the more I softened, there were beautiful synchronicities happening that I was then seeing more of in my life. In the sense, it's not like it never happened. It was always there, but
Always
I never
there.
saw it.
Yes, because we weren't aware. And that's so true. And I tell people, for me, my husband, I'm going to be honest, I had my MRI. And so they do it every 6 months because I was progressing and all that stuff. And so they were like, oh, no, no, what's going on? So the last 6 months, he says, what have you been doing? I have to post that video because he's like, there are no new lesions on your brain and on your spinal cord. And God, we thank you. But it was because I really tapped into, I'm not, it's not, if it's not for me, it's not for me. I'm not trying to force that circle in that peg hole. I'm not trying to recreate this thing. I'm even in when there's a line and people are in, I'm agitated. I've never been that way anyway, but there are people who are that way. I don't want that. Even with my husband, I said, babe,
Mm,
huh?
that's so
And in
beautiful. That's so
that he's like,
beautiful.
I see what you're saying. And I'm like, yeah, my way and my parenting, how my children, the conversation. There's times where I have to exert a little bit. I got to pull that masculine out the back pocket, but then I have to go back in. And they were like, whoa, I didn't know. There's a time like you know how we get into protective mode for our family and our home. But then there's a time when I don't have to do that. And I prefer and I
Exactly.
love that. And it
Mm,
reflected in my MRI. You don't have
I love
any.
that,
And
and
I'm
I want
like,
to speak to that.
go
Uh,
ahead. Let's talk
that's
about it.
so good. Yeah, because one of the greatest gifts that my journey of femininity gave me was vitality. I
Mm,
think more than anything, women need to tap into their feminine energy for their own vitality. We call it the life force energy, the chi, the shakti, so many names. But in the end, it is vitality and nothing else. Well, we see in social media these days, tune into your feminine to get that man, to date that man, to get that high value,
think
high
like
achieving
a man.
relationship. No,
No.
feminine energy is for you, for your vitality, and that's what you resource from within, right?
Yes,
Like the
yes,
healing happens. And
yes.
that's what I got to understand when I was letting go of control and tuning into my feminine energy through certain practices. My body began to heal of psoriasis as well.
Amen.
And
Amen.
and I healed that. I was on steroids, blood tests, nothing was working. And then when I realized that I don't feel safe in my body, that's why I'm such a control freak and I need plan and organization and a yes no all the time, and everyone has to follow my orders for me to feel safe, right? Or I can even emotionally manipulate you into some neediness or creating a drama that you don't love me because, and all of that, right? And I understood
Look how
it
draining that
because I
is.
wasn't,
That's draining.
I was not feeling safe. And the more I was doing some practices to bring back safety in my body was getting clear of psoriasis.
And,
My body was healing.
I'm feeling
It was beautiful.
that. Yeah, it's beautiful. I feel that. And then for those who are watching, I want to reach out a little in the comments. Lil Mama _22 _22. We see your comments. I love it. I love it. Let me see. She said, God is so amazing and everything is connected. You're so right. You're
Yes.
so right, little mama. Let's see. It's so true because we talk about connections, how we were able to connect. You're in London, but there was a sense of alignment in our conversations.
Mm-hmm.
That's is no barrier of race, culture, background. It was
Exactly.
just a genuine alignment. And that's one of the things that I think that when, as I'm going through this journey, my life's journey, one of the things I hope that I leave as a legacy is that you have to embrace outside of what you're culturally used to seeing.
Yes.
Um, because when you do, you allow the amazingness of God to see that there's
Mm-hmm.
difference, but really not different. Her hair is
Exactly.
beautiful and straight. Mine is curly and froey, and I love it, right? I could blow dry mine straight, and she could get a roller set and curl it. We're still women who have the same similarities with our bodies,
Exactly.
with our concerns,
Mm-hmm.
your love for your husband, your love for your
Mm-hmm.
family, love for your community. So, how did you turn
Mm-hmm.
that thing that you have right now? Because that's one of the things I tell people. The conversation is about the thing that was a for you, but then you turn that thing around and look how it's developed. You're no longer hanging on to the title of an IT tech engineer.
Yes, 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 yes. And
You
I
sure you don't
cannot
want to
even
go back? Look,
imagine.
look, I'm just going to mess with you now. You sure you don't want to go back, girl? You sure? You sure?
Let me
No,
think, let me think.
no.
No, no, I don't think so. And I cannot imagine myself anymore. Like, I cannot imagine myself doing that anymore. It's so interesting. One of the other things that I learned about femininity in my journey is to embrace my dense emotions,
Mm,
my dark emotions of sadness and anger and resentment, to really embrace that, because that's what is not taught in the personal development industry. you go and they tell you like, hey, you got to be happy, do the affirmations, yay, love and light, and that's it.
Love
That's how
life.
life is going to be.
Or, you're going to go ahead. There's a blessing. There's a lineup for your blessings. You got a line here for $50 for your blessing, $100 for your blessing. God's gonna bless you based on that. So you stand in that line. And I remember not doing that, girl, because I sat there. I was like, that ain't how God, my grandmother taught me. You know what I mean? That's not how he worked for me. But I do recall that and seeing that among churches, and that can be a thing because we feel like in order to be, I have to put on that I'm the boss chick. I got it. I got the heels. I got the back problems because of the heels that I'm fronting on. Instead of just saying, you know what?
True.
Instead of just being true to ourselves and saying, hey, this is where I am.
Yes,
And
exactly.
what about the mean girls? Like people say, hey, what about the mean girls? How do you deal with that in the feminine space? Because there are people, sometimes it can be family members who may be feminine and ugly. And I'm not saying ugly physical. I'm saying ugly spiritual. How do you deal with that when you come to that personal space for yourself? How did you deal with that?
Yeah. Again, it has been a journey to realize that I should just let them be. I wanted to convince them before, and I
Oh,
realized that it was coming from a space of validation. Like I wanted them to love me and see me and really see the me that is now doing this work, right? Like my family thinks I'm some mad person, doing all this woo-woo kind of work, and
oh, come on
they, they,
now.
they go they go the other direction, and yeah, so yeah, my family is still confused, like what the hell is she even doing, like why people even go to her for, how does she even get paid, right? What the hell? so so
Right.
that's what they think of me.
Wow.
And I realized that if I wanted to be free and feel free to express myself, then I should be in total respect of someone else's expression as well. So the question then came to me is, can I still love them? Or is my
Mm,
love conditional? Right?
mm. Yes.
Yeah. So
For
I
me,
had to
yeah.
literally ask this question for every single person who
Individually.
I had conflict with. Yes, yes, I had to like, do I still love them without us matching the vibe? Or is my love conditional to only if they understand me?
Right.
And so I started seeing them beyond what our conversation was and just connecting for the reason I always connected. And I let go of validation, especially from them. And, slowly, they see like, wow, when you do this work, people can feel your presence. People light up from your presence. People see the gift in you. You don't have anything more to prove.
No.
It's such unique to you. They would want to come and share their stories with you and their troubles with you, and that's what is happening now. So it's really interesting because initially I was trying hard, and then I started understanding like, no, I need to receive
Yes.
like the feminine, and
Yes.
and that's what is happening now.
I love that. And thank you for standing, because if you had not stood in your truth and realizing your truth, then I would have never gotten the opportunity to see what you're doing and how you're making a positive impact in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
that's huge. That is huge. What's next for you?
What's next for me is bringing this conversation into leadership,
Mm,
into literally personal leadership. I think once a woman understands her unique feminine essence, her feminine energy, then she can utilize the same modality to lead her business, especially business, I would say, because a lot of businesses are operating on a model that is not value based. But when women go into businesses, they want to give value. I have not
yes.
met a woman who do not want to give value and be in service. Sometimes, like we often struggle to even charge for the value that we give, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, and what I also like to where my work is directing right now is specifically empowering women to work with their dense emotions, the dark emotions, I like to call it, because the good and the bad, the light and the
There's
dark.
always the
So
opposite.
exactly. And for me, dark is no longer bad or
Mhm.
ugly, but dark is just the darkness, like there is no light. And in one of the beautiful books called The Law of Light, it's a
Mm.
beautiful journey of Yeshua's tradition, and he calls darkness as the black light.
Oh, I
And
love that.
yeah, and because
True.
in our darkness, we can see where we are not meeting ourselves, where we have repressed our own power, where we are being our own oppressors, right? Because there's a lot we know inside our heads. She is always talking like how we belittle ourselves, how we oppress our own powers,
Yes,
right? So that's what my current journey is around,
I
leadership and
love that.
embracing those dark qualities. Yeah,
So when you're talking about, do you believe in the ancestral? Because a lot of things can be just born in.
absolutely,
Um,
100%. We women
yeah.
are lineage carriers. We carry from womb to womb to womb, and especially for us women who are realizing this, we can reshape our lineage. We can redefine the legacy. And it is
Yes.
so interesting because I feel that our ancestors went through so much and we are carrying that inside of us. And it is our responsibility to not just free ourselves from that, but also free the pain that they have gone to, our lineage has gone through.
Yes,
Yeah. And it's biological. It is in our
it
DNA.
is.
You cannot ignore the fact that no, it's not like that for me. If you are a woman, if you have come out of a womb, you are carrying ancestral trauma, 100%.
100%. 100%. And that is so essential because I think that a lot of times, I know for me, growing up in the Christian faith, I no longer connect on that level. I'm spiritual, so I'm beyond a title. So if I
Mm-hmm.
don't diagnose myself and
Yes.
don't claim, you know what I mean? Like I just, um, but those traditions where we just pray it away, we're gonna pray this thing away, oh, it's gonna be okay, and then you're back in the church Wednesday night for Bible study. You're there on Sundays, yet you're still carrying that weight. You're still carrying that thing instead of understanding that yes, that's source. God is source. However, and there's no however, like but there's no but in him. He also has placed other ways for you to be able to reach it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Absolutely.
yeah, so if that means a doctor, if that means a counselor, that means getting the help that you're needing to get where you need to be, there you're wanting to be, and the
Mm-hmm.
desire that you're aligned to be in, then it's okay to do that. And I don't think our God is like tripping on that. He's not having no angst about it. I think that when we put him in a box, when we allow, then that's because it's what we do, not because that's what
Exactly.
he requires.
Yeah, and I feel that the world, whatever the space is, the universe you want to call it, this is an abundant place, and there is not just one way to do the thing right. There are
Right?
multiple options available. There are multiple opportunities available, multiple doors available, multiple gates opening. It's all available. It doesn't have to be, Tiffany, your way or Junita, my way.
Right.
What I love is women come into spaces like this and resonate in their hearts with what we are
Yeah.
sharing and then create their own way.
Yeah.
And that's how we change. That's how we progress and evolve
Yeah.
as a species, right?
And then finding out what your gift is, because a gift
Mhm.
could be speaking, it could be teaching, it could be drawing, it could be singing. I can't carry a note with a bucket. I couldn't sing.
Yes,
So
I would
everybody
love to
has their
speak
gift.
to that.
Yes, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Um, so what I have noticed in my work with women around the dark emotions of anger and sadness, and particularly anger and sadness, the more we worked with these emotions, on the other side, women came out feeling super creative. They had gifts to share with the world.
Yes.
And this was through writing, speaking, any kind of form of creativity. And this was sourced from the dark place of her anger, her sadness. And so that's why for me, this is a very fertile place. The black
It
light is a
is.
very fertile
It
space.
is.
And this when when we dare to step into that space and hold ourselves, with love and compassion, we create unique creative opportunities for ourselves that is not in competition with anyone
No,
else. Like, it
no,
cannot be in
no,
competition. That is
no.
so unique to you.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's what I said. There's no box. You can't just go in and just pick and pull and say, "Hey, peel." I've had investment coaches and all that. Great leaders, great. They've given me the tools. There's some in
Yes.
the toolbox that I will use, and there's some tools that I won't use. And that's the great thing about being able to be in position but open to be able to say,
Yes.
there's another way to do this thing. There's another way to do this life. And my journey is part of it. And I look forward to that when I could see something or see someone else and I'm like, oh, she's using her
Mm.
gift. I love that. And that's why I say the conversations, it's important that we have those conversations, and I want to have
Absolutely.
conversations with people. They don't have to be celebrity. I think all of us are celebrity, honestly. We're all celebrity. We're walking the earth,
We
we're
are the
celebrity.
celebrity.
We're the celebrity,
We are.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
Exactly.
and
We are
and when we
celebrity.
own that,
We are celebrities.
yeah, we got them goodies. We got it all. We can flaunt, we can do it all. And that's one thing about being a woman. We have that, and I embrace that. But then they turned that thing, whatever that was, and they turned it for the good. They turned it to be able to help. So if that's the teacher, whether that's the person who's picking up the trash at it doesn't matter. So it's
Mhm.
it's amazing. I love that. And it's so good to learn. And when we're talking about the family and having to learn how to balance that thing out, I think that's so pivotal, because in that, when you're evolving and you're growing, you're right. I do not have to try to convince anyone, beat brow, throw the Bible at them, or do this, or that's not how you're going to draw me in. That's not how God drew us in. That's not how He drew you in, by bow breeding, like doing that. And I think that
Yeah.
I think that that's how it should be. The softness. Now, don't mistake our femininity, our softness, as a weakness. Don't don't mistake
Mhm.
that. And there's no voodoo in that. When I say, hey, okay, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to meditate. I'm going to pray on that. There's no witchcraft stuff here. But understanding that it's our birthright. God has already given it. And I'm learning more about myself and my history on both ends.
Mhm.
And when you start realizing it's bigger than just you, then you take a different attitude.
Exactly. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's literally honoring yourself as a woman, and all the big spectrum of emotions you carry on a regular basis, literally honoring all of that rather than judging it as good, bad. It's just taking all pieces of yourself and walking this journey to see what you can give to yourself, and in doing so, you give to your loved ones, your community, and it overflows from you.
Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time, because I know we're London. What time is it there?
7
Yes.
p.m., 7:30 p.m.
Yeah, so I'm not going to hold you. I first off want to congratulate you and thank you for taking the time to spread love and spread your gifts with us. And for those, how do they contact you, and what do they do if they want to connect with you? What are ways that they can do that?
They can connect with me on my Instagram profile. Empress Jonita is my Empress Instagram profile. I'm relatively new on Instagram. I'm learning.
So
Trying, yeah, and
we're all
that's
trying, right?
connected. Yeah, 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 of course. And I share regularly, and I also have a link to plenty of free gifts on my bio. So go ahead, check out for yourself, and if you resonate, then get your nuggets from this woman. And yeah, I'm here for you.
I love it. So before we let you go, what is the one thing Or what's your word for the women who are watching? Your sign off word.
Sign off word. Ah, I would like to just remind ourselves that we are so worthy. Our worthiness has never left us and has never changed. And it's always available, it's always here. And we must remember this in order to remember ourselves. I would say, like, remember, like, bring all those parts of ourselves back, and from this point on we can hone into our self-trust, we can hone into self-acceptance, and create an alchemy. I also want to emphasize on the fact that, and Tiffany, I'm sure you will recommend too, that women need another women to see to see their goodness. It's really hard for us to see for ourselves often. I feel good when you say good things about me. You feel good when I say good things about you. Then you remember more. Then I remember more. We need other women to be the mirrors for us, and we need safe sisterhood this way. And I highly recommend that. Find it for yourself. Find your tribe, because that's gonna save you. That's gonna remind you of your worthiness.
Well, I want to apologize for crying. We got emotional, but that's part of it. You know what I mean? But you are amazing. Thank you so much for your time, your energy. Much love from Georgia all the way to London to you. Much love. And we will connect again. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, you all, as you heard, the Empress has spoken. Now, we're all empresses in our own right. We're all queens. And we have the power. And our men are kings, right? And we have the power to be able to pull whatever situation that we were born into, whatever life gave us. You're able to pull from that and the energy of that, and tapping into your feminine energy, tapping into that and letting go this boss chick mentality, letting go that and learning that, you know what he's already given me is more than enough, more than enough. And you were made for it. This has been your girl. I love you. Conversations with Tiffany. I love it. I love you. Before I sign off, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. I love you. I do. And there is nothing. I mean, nothing, nada, zada, zilch. There's nothing you can do about it. I'll talk to you later.